Please listen carefully.
Oi, eu sou Guilherme Logullo e esse é o podcast Eu, Ator.
So much time, but there's no end date, so that's also nice. Normally it's like a week or a day or something.
Yeah.
Like
I
a good
know,
chunk of
forever.
time.
Yes, forever.
It's humbling.
Yeah. Oi, o episódio já vai começar, mas antes eu queria te dar um recado. O podcast agora tem uma conta no PicPay. O que você acha de ser um apoiador dessa ideia? Se você quiser unir forças com a arte e colaborar, o link está na descrição. Agora vamos ao episódio de hoje. Well, I just would like to start thanking you to be here with us at the Eu Ator podcast. I'm sure people in Brazil will love to hear about your story and how your journey and how everything happens in your life. So first I would like to ask, what did come first to your life? Music or theater?
Well, hola a todos. I think the first thing that happened was music. It was definitely music because I came from a Caribbean family. My dad is from Trinidad and my mom's from Barbados. So music was always in the house. There's always singing, dancing going on. And I think I definitely fell in love with music before I fell in love with theater. And theater is the marriage of sort of music and acting. So then I really fell in love with it because I always liked to play pretend. But I remember listening to like Motown music when my mom was cleaning the house and singing along to that. Or like Boys to Men and Whitney Houston. And I always loved singing in church. So definitely always had a passion for music. My mom sort of caught wind of that and put me in piano lessons when I was 5. So that's sort of how I started like being musical, playing an instrument rather than singing as well.
Oh, I see. And do you still play the piano or not?
Do I still play?
Yeah.
I can tickle the ivories a little bit, but I definitely not. I stopped it after a while.
Yeah, but that's amazing because the piano for a singer, once you start singing, it comes easily. You know the notes and you recognize better the notes, isn't it?
For sure. It gave you such a good foundation of singing and navigating.
And then, but when you said to your mom, okay, mom, now I'm going to do theater, how was she about that? How was your parents about that?
Ooh, well, I don't think they knew the magnitude, neither did I, of where it could go. You know, I think I liked it because like I like how it made me feel, and I like the idea of putting on a show and the camaraderie of the theater. I loved that, but I never, and my parents also didn't know where it would go. So I think they definitely had fears and reservations because, especially for a boy, like that's not really what boys do. You know, especially Caribbean boys for such, we're supposed to be doctors and things like that. You know,
Yes.
but I think once they realized my passion and sort of I wanted to get good at it because I knew that if it was going to be taboo, I wanted to get good at it.
Yeah.
And so I really put a lot of my energy into it, and they gave me their blessing, and I ran with it. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't a struggle, but I knew that it made me happy. And I knew that something just told me keep going. You know, you have to sort of listen to your inner voices sometimes, even if there's distractions. I was actually talking about this with my mom today, and she said it was because of the fear of it being unfamiliar. You know, she didn't know enough about it, or like the parents always want the best for their child. But sometimes passion finds you, you know, and it's up to you. Then now I've opened your eyes to a whole new world. Aladdin joke, you get it?
Yes. Great.
So it's interesting how life happens that way.
So you did not have any artists in your life before you, or what?
Any artists in my family?
Yeah, before that. That's why they were so scared, probably, no?
It was so different. I think they act a fool. I think that's definitely it. But no, there was no other. I did find out later on in life that my grandfather was a limbo champion in Barbados, and he was like a circus performer.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, how cool. And I never really put two and two together, but every time I went to go see him in Barbados, he was on his front porch, like in such a low squat. And I was like, how is that comfortable for him? But turns out like that was his life. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
So I think the circus and performing is in my blood.
So
and on my dad's side in Trinidad, my grandfather was a singer.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. So you grown up in New Jersey, right? And then your first experience in theater was in New Jersey at college, right?
Yeah, I did shows in high school. I did some community theater, but it was college that really buckled me down into like, this is what I want to do. And I started freelancing with an agency right out of college, and then I got my first show, which was High School Musical.
Yeah, that's
And
what I
that
was going to ask you. That your first paid job was High School Musical?
Disney's High School Musical. Yeah,
Oh,
it was so
amazing.
fun. It was so fun. I traveled the country for about 19 months with that show.
Wow. And then you did High School 1 and 2, right? You did
That's
both
right, back to
shows.
back. So I did High School Musical 2, and that was my first shot of doing a show like from the ground up, because it wasn't built yet. So we did the world premiere of that in Atlanta.
Ooh, wow, how amazing. We had it in
so
Brazil.
fun.
We had that
You
show in
did?
Brazil, yeah. But the first one, the second one, I don't think they made it. And
Together,
they even did a
together.
version, a film version, yeah. It was so much fun. Yeah.
It was so much fun. And it was a lot of our starts to our career. So I made a lot of friends like Ariel Jacobs, who plays Princess Jasmine.
Oh, cool.
John Jeffrey Martin, who was in Kinky Boots. A lot of Chandralee Schwartz went on to play Glinda. This is all like, it was like a lot of people's gateways into our careers. It was really, really special. And putting together that show was so fun.
Oh, I can imagine it. And what about Lion King? And then afterwards, you did the tour of Lion King for a while before you went to do your Broadway debut, right?
Even before then, I was in the Las Vegas production. So I was an original Las Vegas member of the Lion King. And that's how I started back in 2009, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was a fresh 21.
And having a lead role in your hands, how was that?
Well, let's slow down. I actually didn't get cast as Simba when I first started. I was actually the back legs of the rhinoceros. Thank you very much.
Great.
And so I was part of
we
the
all
ensemble.
done it. We all done it.
You got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I loved it because like it gave me an appreciation for the ensemble and how cool it is, and how there are no small roles, because I may have been the back legs, but you saw me bopping.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
yes.
I made sure that I was seen. And like I was working with Buti Motmaha, who was the front legs, and we definitely made our rhino stride. We had to do it together. So like figuring out our different characters and different ways to be part of the show, and in our own way, which is really cool. But I definitely fell in love with the role of Simba, being an understudy, and got the opportunity to work on it and develop it and make it my own. And then I took over in Vegas.
Wow. And then you were Simba in Vegas for a while as well.
For a little while, yeah. And then I moved to the tour, and then I made my Broadway debut as Simba.
But were you invited to do the Broadway debut, or you had to audition for the Broadway show?
I was invited. I was in.
Amazing.
I think that a lot of people have seen me do the show for a while by then. So it was. I'll never forget that phone call when I was in Florida, saying that they had a great opportunity for me to come to New York.
Oh, wow. That's what I think is about Disney shows, like when they really like someone, because I've seen friends who've been in The Lion King in Brazil, and then they were invited to do in France, they were invited to do in Hamburg. It's amazing how they really trust. Yeah.
Yeah, there's 13 productions worldwide. So it's a network, there's a family that you can plug into and come in. And I think it always comes at the right time for everybody. So it's really nice to be part of that family. Who knows? I might be back in it soon enough. Yeah,
amazing. So you were on Broadway. How was that for you? Like after Vegas, doing your debut on Broadway as like a lead role, how was that for you? So young and fresh.
It was so fulfilling because I was home, and I had so many of my friends and family right there with me, supporting me on my first show there, which is really cool. And there's nothing like being in New York. It's such a good energy, and I felt like it was a new beginning again. And touring was great, but I feel like at that time in my life, I was ready to be home and set roots. I was a little tired of missing birthdays or missing, special occasions, family. And I felt like where I was in life, it was the perfect timing to come back home.
That's amazing. And then you were in the show for 3 years. And what made you feel like, okay, now it's time to move on? And then you did Smokey's Café after that, right?
It happened. It all lined up. I just felt like it was time to hang up the hat and then have somebody else step in. I feel like I had a beautiful journey with Simba, and it was time to see what Jelani could do. It was a time to like spread your wings and see what sticks. And just so happened that Smokey Joe's was one of my favorite shows growing up.
I had a DVD and that I would watch all the time. I never seen live, but I had a DVD of the show.
An audition popped up. And I went for it, and it just worked out. And it was callback after callback after callback. And like, I'm really thankful. It happened perfectly because, as doing the show for so long, The Lion King, I was nervous about identity and who I was without it, So luckily I stepped into a show that I played myself.
And your body
And
probably was knocked, because I know my friends, their bodies are like, because after doing 8 shows a week, every week for 3 years, your body probably was completely destroyed by like,
no, it wasn't
injuries.
destroyed. I think
No?
I conditioned it because I made sure I mean, you definitely get nicks and injuries for sure, but like, it's about preservation. I want to make it to the next show. So you know what I mean? So you got to figure that out for yourself.
And how is that for you? You do really like, you do your stretching, your vocal warm-ups. Are you conscious of that?
I am conscious of that. This is the temple, so it's important to check in. I think quarantine, I definitely have to do more so now when we prep, because it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But it'll be fine. And we're like athletes, you know?
Yes. And then Smokey Joe's Café was completely different, as you said.
Completely different.
Yeah,
and actually, my last show.
You being yourself.
My last show at Lion King was our final tech for Smokey Joe. So it was a very busy day. And like the show just like rolled over. It lapsed over, which was really cool. And it was so hard to get like all of my cat like movements out and just walk like a person. Like, you know what I mean?
I'm back to
cat. No, let your claws down. This is Spanish Harlem.
How crazy.
Yeah. So it was definitely a wake up call, and like had to like settle that in. But I love that like the show was curated as to what we all did as individuals. So like the numbers were switched around. So I got to do like what was in my wheelhouse and do different numbers that like showcased me. So it was really cool.
That's amazing.
It was the perfect segue from like doing something for so long. You know what I mean? It was the perfect thing because I felt like it was catered to me and I wasn't stepping into something. I was creating something.
Yeah, no, the show is amazing, and the songs are great as well, great tunes as well.
Yeah, we just released an at-home version of Stand By Me, which is really cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we all sang our own parts at home, and I think especially with what's going on in the world, Stand By Me is an iconic and sort of an anthem that is amplified even now with this movement. So I hope you guys all check that out too.
Yeah, sure. I'll make sure I put the link in the description so people can.
And follow me on Instagram at it's Jelani Remy.
Yeah, you know, sure thing. And then And Too Proud, like was your last show. It was the show you were on Broadway just before you shut it down. Was after Smokey Joe's Café, you were like, okay, you auditioned to be in the show, and you were a swing, right, at the beginning.
Oh, so even after Ain't Too Proud, actually, I did a show called The Apple Boys, which is a barbershop quartet musical that was so funny and so smart and gave me like such good character work too. I did because I played a bunch of different characters in it, including Johnny Appleseed's grandson. So
that's amazing.
Colorblind casting? I think not. So it was really cool to do that. And then when I was in that, I auditioned for Ain't Too Proud, just as a whim. I'd never even heard about it, to be honest. I didn't know what it's called.
Did your mom not used to listen to the Temptations?
But exactly why I think I succeeded, because I did know the Temptations music. So I sang for them, and then I read for them, and I got cast as a standby. And I was a swing, so I was learning so much information, and it was really, really, it was like the ultimate chameleon, which I love because you get to plug in. But at that time in my life, I wanted to keep doing new things, keep expanding. Because I'm sort of brand new, because I was in my Disney bubble, as I call it, for a while. And so I'm still new. So I have no problem with figuring things out and being part of a project and being part of the team. And it worked out because as an understudy, I was able to go on for Eddie Kendricks a few times. And when Jeremy Pope, who originated the role, was leaving, it was another situation similar to the Broadway call, where they were like, hey, we think you'd be great for this. And I took over.
And then how is your how do you prepare for an audition? Like you do have the music that you normally do for, we all have that on the backpack. And then how do you prepare for each audition? How is your process?
Well, everything is different. I think I used to always pick a song sort of similar to the show, but nowadays when I audition for a show, they give me the songs that they want me to sing. You know what I mean? So I'm singing exactly from the show. So like, I was singing Come What May for Moulin Rouge. I was singing Dancing Through Life for Fierro, or Ain't Too Proud. I'm singing from the show because they want to just hear that. And if they want to hear more, I then have like my back pocket songs.
Okay, that's the good thing as well. After you've been in the Lion King for 3 years, and then Smokey. So now people really already know yourself and go like, no, you can give already a song from the show. That makes much easier, isn't it?
See what he does with the material. But there's also a pressure because like you don't get to do your go-to song right away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have to really do your homework and really understand the material.
Your money, how you call money notes are there on your pocket, and you're like, oh, I want to show them.
Okay, so let's see what we got else. Let's see what else is in the bank.
And then getting the role after the guy left, and then you took over the role of Eddie. And how was that for you to have that experience of like, okay, now it's my own Eddie?
Terrifying, because I had such big shoes to fill, because it was a Tony-nominated role.
Yeah.
But I will say, I was in good hands, and I didn't do it alone. It was, Des Mackinoff. It was Edgar, our associate. It was the stage management. It was the 4 other guys that were with me, like helping me and making me feel valid in my choices and in my discovery and figuring out my own Eddie and really trying to. It was a brotherhood, you know what I mean? And so with support, with trial and error, and with the whole team, like we figured out my groove.
Wow. And tell me about the choreography, because the choreography, I had the chance to see the show. I think you were
Tony
already,
Award-winning choreography.
Yeah. Oh my God. An amazing choreography. How was that for you to learn those steps and to do that? How to get that feeling in your body? Yeah.
It was hell. It was, because when I first got the show, I was looking up the Temptations dancing, and I was like, I could do this. Cut to when I see what we're actually doing, I'm like, oh, okay. This is up the ante. This is
much
more
harder. Yeah, it's like
much harder. But like the beauty of the choreography that Sergio created is that it's about individuality too. Like we don't all have to dance the same, but as long as we have the same spirit and groove, it's all fine. Yeah. So that's what's really cool. Like I can put my isms on it and make it work for me. And he's been so great of saying, okay, well, let's figure out your version or what works for you or what's best for the show. So it's really, really cool to have that sort of leadership.
That's what I thought was amazing about the show. Each character had their own personality, and the way they moved was like everyone has their own identity. And that was so amazing to watch. And I had so much fun. Congratulations for that achievement in your life.
I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah. And then how is life now? How do you think it's going to be Broadway after COVID-19?
Well, I do think that the world's going to need Broadway, and then the world's going to need us actors who are at home getting ready and bettering ourselves and creating new stories to help people escape and to feel again and to connect again. So I'm optimistic, and I'm anxious even, I'm very excited to be able to step on stage, especially with a show like ours where the message is pretty much what's being lived right now.
Yes.
There's so many things that are parallel that are happening in the world that are relevant in our show. So I think that scene work when we go back is going to be so sobering to see and to act and to relive because of us being home watching these things happen and how it applies to the text of our show. The actual text is really powerful.
Do you have any funny moments that you could comment on it? Like at backstage moments that you go like, there? Yes, please.
Yes.
I think that's what's fun, because a lot of actors listen to the show and watch the show. So it'll be fun to know a fun fact.
Does it have to be about me or is it about somebody else?
Oh, it can be, yeah.
Which one do you want? About me? I bet you want the one about me.
Yes, that will be more interesting.
Okay, so there was one of my first times going on as Eddie.
Yeah.
I was super nervous, and I also have a very healthy pituitary gland, which means I was sweating, and super nervous. And we're on the bus scene, and I have to thrash myself, and I'm thrashing myself because the gunshots happen, and I throw myself to the ground, and my wig falls off.
Oh my God!
Why? Right. So that sound right there, that was all the guys on the bus with me. They're all laughing, and so what do? I look at the wig on the ground, and my line is next. And so I grabbed the wig, put it in my pocket. Luckily, my hair was similar to the wig.
Oh, okay, you didn't have that cap.
I had a band on, but it was black.
Oh,
so it
good.
looked similar.
Oh, good thing.
However, I put the wig in my pocket and I kept on going. So I guess that is funny because you're still laughing. But
my God.
Yeah,
no, I just can imagine being on stage with you, and if that's something like
I had
that
to make
happens.
A decision. Put it in your pocket, keep it going.
Well done, you.
Thank
because
you.
I know how tough it is sometimes you're on stage with people, and something like that happens. How I can't deal with it. I'm like,
yes, you can. Yes, you
no,
can. I mean, for the most part, I think the audience didn't see. But it's about the recovery, right?
Yeah. And how? I mean, being something new for you, you were really quick because you put in a pocket and you were like, okay, let's do this.
Well, I also took a semester at Upright Citizens Brigade, so improv is in my back pocket.
Okay.
So you always, my dad always said, a failure to plan is a plan to fail. So what are you gonna do?
Good man.
What are you gonna do?
Good man. So tell me about your dream roles, like roles that you still want to play, like on Broadway. What would be your dream roles?
And I always say, like, my dream role hasn't been written yet.
Ooh la la. Good one.
Así que bueno. But I fell in love with Ben Vereen young, so I would love to tell his story. I think that would be really cool. Okay. I love Pippin. I love the leading player in Pippin. I also want to play Fiyero in Wicked someday. I think I love that role.
Yeah.
But I'm open to anything. You know what I mean?
You just want to work.
It's about the work. I want to do good work.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I'm open. But I just put on my directorial hat during this time at home because I did feel like I've told so many other stories. Like, why not start telling my own? So first, I'm started writing my own cabaret, which is cool.
How
writing
amazing.
My own music for that. But more importantly, on July 27th, I directed my first benefit for Broadway Cares, where I get to spotlight different people in the theater and of all colors, shapes, ages, not just singers, dancers, makeup artists, everybody in the theater to sort of celebrate diversity. And it's called Next Gen Spotlight. It's the voices of the next generation. Because I wanted to figure out a way to bring everybody back together in this time where people are sort of divided. Yeah. How can we as artists pull together to celebrate each other properly and openly? So I'm very excited about that.
That's amazing. That's how I feel as well. Like we as artists, we need to keep on going. We can't stop. We can't be like, oh, what I'm going to do. No, just do your own stuff, isn't it? It's about you doing your own stuff and not stopping.
Making it work for you. Like if I was feeling a certain type of way, I thought to myself, okay, well, how can I fix it? How can I feel like I'm doing my part? And this is what I came up with.
Yeah. But do you have friends that are really depressed and really like, oh, because people are struggling right now because there's no work, right?
I was depressed for a while too, because there's no answers. You know, there was no answers, and all I knew that there was no curtain at 7:00. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a depressing thing. But then you figure out, okay, well, how can I be happy? What makes me happy? So it's about, and then you turn it inward and figure it out. But the depression and sadness, that's part of the journey, you know, but then it's about the discovery, right? And it's about like the overcome.
Well done. Yeah, that's exactly how I think as well. So so we can finish now, we're towards the end. I would like to ask you, I always ask this question to my guests. If you, Jelany, after all you lived, all these years, if you could go back to that young Jelany at college, deciding to do theater, what would you say to him?
Put down the donut. Put down the donut. I'd also tell him that you are enough. You don't have to be somebody else. What makes you unique is what's gonna make you go far. Don't hold back.
That's great. Thank you for giving me a bit of your time and having
this
lovely chat, and lovely to hear about your life journey and all that. And I wish you all the best, and hopefully soon we can hug each other and be like, okay.
We will. Yeah. We'll be going out doing a 2-step again.
Yes. Sure thing. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.